tip this week is about more stripes, and this time it is helix or spiral knitting. You know that when you knit in the round, you don't have an end of a row and a beginning of a row that just fit together. The row actually continues on top of the row before, so it is a spiral. And that's one of the reasons why there's a problem sometimes with Fair Isle in the round at the beginning and end of round, where you need to make some consideration. Now, this technique takes advantage of this. And I love it for stripes. As I've said before, I really like stripes. I think they're fun, particularly for kids' things. And in this instance, what you do is you have as many colors as you want, and again, it comes down to yarn management. The more colors you have, the more yarn management you're going to have. But in this case, I have 4 colors, and the reason I have 4 colors is I have red, cream, gray, cream. So even though one of those colors is the same, I need 4 balls. And to do this, what you do is you divide, and by the way, this just works in the round, you divide your total number of stitches, and let's pretend this is actually 108, but let's say it's 100, by the number of stitches that you have, by the number of colors. So if I have 100 stitches and I have 4 colors, then I've got 25 stitches in each color. And when I set this up, I place markers to indicate where those 25 stitches begin and end. And as you can see here, I have started with my 25, or it's actually 27 here, stitches, and I'm almost to the end. Now, to start this, what you do is you work your first color, and here's the beginning of my round, which was cream, and then I work 25 stitches. Then I start my next color. There's my yarn tail, 25 stitches, and then I start my next color, which is cream, okay, which is cream right here. You can see my yarn tail, work 25 stitches, and then I start my next color, which is gray. Now from that point on, you do exactly the same thing. You work your 25 stitches, and so, oops, dropped a stitch there, and I'm going to work, I've worked most of those stitches, and I'm going to work to the last stitch in that color where my marker is. Okay? Now, what I do is I drop the old color and I pick up the color below, because if I notice over here, my pattern is red, white, gray, white, and so red is the next color I need. Now, when I pick up this new color, the thing you want to be careful of is not to pull this so tight. If you pull it very, very tight, it's going to screw up the tension at those joins. And one of the things that I'll do when I finish the hat is I'll go in and I'll use a tapestry needle to kind of straighten up here. So I do not want to pull it tight. I'm going to be fairly loose. I'm going to pick up that red color, and I'm going to work to my next marker. Work, work, work. Whoops. Knit. Gotta watch me knit. You can see the funny way I hold my needle. And I'll try and be fast with this so you don't have to watch me for too long. And looking at this right now, I know that the next color I'm going to be using is the white or the cream, because it is on the row below the red where I am currently working. I work up, and here's the last color. I slip my marker over, and notice that it's a little tight there. Again, I'm going to fix that up, and I'm going to get this cream, and I'm going to be very, very careful not to pull it. And by the way, you want to pull the yarn that you're using under the yarn you just dropped. It's going to make those joins neater. And I'm going to work to my next marker, and there's a reason why I'm showing you this. And by the way, you can do this on double pointed needles, and I generally prefer working on double pointed needles, but the problem is that when you're working on double pointed needles, because you've got working yarn at the end of each section, it's very easy to pick up the wrong yarn if you've put it down. And so if you're doing that, and in fact I would always on this anyway. If I'm going to leave this, I would leave it and so that I know exactly where I'm working. If you leave at the yarn change, yeah, it's kind of easy to get confused. So I'm working to that point, and here I go. And now it's Gray's turn. Now I'm going to show you a second here. At this location, I'm in the last section before my beginning of the round, so I am at the end of the round. And if I notice where I have that marker, I do not have any yarn there. The yarn that you use for the end of the round is the yarn that you use for the beginning of the round. So I'll be working 25 plus 25 stitches in this gray. And that's just the way this thing works. And then when I get over here, past that, then I've got my working yarn. So this is very simple, but you do have to pay attention, and there are a few pitfalls, as I've mentioned, and I'll have more of that in my blog. But notice that this is very nice stripes, you know, and the biggest advantage is that whenever you see stripes or color changes, you fully expect to see a lot of yarn tails, and in this case you're only going to have 4 yarn tails that you have to weave in. And that's why I like this. Now again, you can have as many colors as you want, but keep in mind, the more colors that you have, the more yarn management you're going to have. Notice I have 4 balls of yarn down here, and this is what happens. So as you work, you know, do the kind of untangle them after the end of each round. It will be easier for the next round if you do that.